Good afternoon. I will call this October the 9th, 2018 Johnston County Public Schools Board meeting to order. I welcome you to your Johnston County Board meeting. Welcome all the guests. I would ask that you silence your phones so we could expedite the meeting, not have any interruptions. There's no better. We do have a quorum of all 7 board members attending today, and there's no better way to start a great meeting is with an invocation from Dorothy Johnston, Vice Chair, and a Pledge of Allegiance from Dr. Peggy Smith. May we all stand, please.
May bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and let us be prepared for the Hurricane Michael that may affect us in some way. Keep everyone safe. We thank you, dear Lord, for the opportunities for all board members to come together again to take care of the business of this school district. We thank you for all your blessings, known and unknown, seen and unseen. Look graciously upon this board. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and guide our minds, dear Lord, that we stay focused on the purpose of this board, and that is education for all children. May we also look for ways to keep our children safe as they study for a better life and a better future. For some of us, our responsibilities will come to an end soon. Thank you for keeping our mind on the good of people, not ways to tear down or destroy the system. We look these ways nice, and let's leave it a little bit better than we found it. I would like to repeat that. We come this way once. Let's leave it a little bit better than we found it. I ask, Lord, for blessing of our students, superintendent, support staff, parents, and volunteers. Guide our students in doing things that are right and pleasing in your mind, in your sight. As leaders, remember, students don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. Amen.
We do have public comment today. I would ask Dr. Coates to please come forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Board Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Board of Education members, and Dr. Renfro. Just as a matter of reminder, I'd like to share the guidelines for public comment, and these have been followed. We do welcome and encourage comments during the public comment session of our board meeting. This time is set aside for the board to hear comments on programs, policies, and procedures. The Board of Education will not respond nor take immediate action on any concerns expressed, but please be assured we will take all comments under appropriate advisement. All regular board meetings are public meetings. However, a public meeting is not an open forum meeting, and that is why we have the pre-registration procedures in place, and they have been followed. Public participation is limited to the public comment section, so the board may deliberate important decisions without distraction or interference. The presiding officer reserves the right to halt any public comment that does not adhere to the guidelines. I'd like to remind everyone that we will have our comments limited to 5 minutes or less. Today, I'd like to call to the podium Mr. Landis Bullock with the Citizens Committee for Better Schools. Mr. Bullock.
Welcome, Mr. Bullock. Appreciate you coming today.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. And I am a little bit taller than Ms. Coates. And I'm going to apologize if I have to look down a little too much reading my notes, but I had quite a bit of information that I was hoping to bring forward to the board in my 5 minutes. First, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon to your supporting staff and any guests that we have here today. Chairman Wooten, I want to thank your board for all the efforts y'all make every day in making Johnston County an excellent school system. It is your energies, your direction, your guidance, and the staff that you bring in that makes our schools as good as they are. Thank y'all for doing that. And there's a lot of other people who should be saying thank you also. I am Landis Bullock, for the ones of you who may not know me. I am a local business owner. I graduated from Smithfield-Selma High School, senior high school, in 1974. Johnston County Schools prepared me and my fellow classmates for the next phase of our life development. I feel that I owe a tremendous amount back to this county and to the school system. I now have the pleasure of serving on the Citizens Committee for Better Schools. Its predecessor was the Johnston County Citizens for Better School, which was started back in the mid-1990s. I do not know the original reason that the committee was put together, but what has been shared with me by other members is we were brought together at that time to help pass bond referendums that were being brought forth by the Board of Education, the community college, and other bonds that the Johnston County Commissioners felt was important to bring before the voting public. On our committee, we have members from across the county: Fred Bartholomew, Eddie Driver, Billy Daughtry, Brandon Evans, who is with us today. Brandon, please stand up. Mr. Jeff Jennings, who is also with us today. Thank you, Brandon and Jeff. Harold King, Nicole Key, Tracy Ashley, and Dr. David Johnston, both on staff at Johnston Community College. And representing with us is Ms. Dolores Gill, Mr. Brooks Moore, Dr. Ross Renfro, Ms. Crystal Roberts, and Mr. Nathaniel Shelton from the Johnston County Board of Education. All of the committee members understand the importance of having an excellent educational system and are giving of their time, energy, and resources to make sure our students, young or more mature, have the opportunities to be successful in today's workforce. Our educational system is an economic driver for our local communities, county, and state. The committee has collaborated with the school system, who has been a great asset, and we have reviewed the data from Ord Ed from North Carolina State University and the Height Associates reports that was provided to Johnston County Board of Education. We have reviewed those sources of data, and they have been very helpful to us in promoting the bond referendum and letting the citizens of Johnston County know where our needs are and the importance of having the bond passed. The Citizens Committee has raised its funding from private individuals and organizations. All funds are being used to inform the citizens of Johnston County about the $61 million bond for the Johnston County Board of Education and the $15 million bond for the community college. We are currently promoting the bond through a variety of speaking engagements to civic groups, service clubs, promotional brochures, which I put in front of you today, and other media, traditional media ads, which will be starting later this month. We have a social media presence on Facebook where we are encouraging the voters to check it twice for the future of our children. Our website for the Citizens Committee for Better Schools has been updated to the current bond referendum information and is encouraging voters to vote for both bonds. During the next few weeks, the committee will continue promoting the bonds through the speaking engagements and the traditional advertising I mentioned earlier, and we will be working diligently to support the successful passage of the bond. As we encourage voter support, we are reminding them that they must flip the ballot over. Our bond referendums are blended in with the amendments on the back page. We must have our voting public educated to know, turn the ballot over and vote twice on the back side of the page. The citizens, we are explaining the importance of passing the bond referendum and how it is the least expensive way to update and remodel and build our schools. The citizens are being informed that each school feeder pattern is receiving upgrades and how important it is for our existing schools to remain equitable to our newer schools. The committee has requested from the Board of Education an update on what projects have been implemented or completed since the 2013 bond referendum. And this information is included in our talking points. We also requested from Johnston Community College information on the new engineering program and the need for a new facility to enhance the program. The information is also included in the presentation and the brochure, talking about how many students they already have in their engineering program and the sharing of the students with other major universities in the area. The Citizens Committee for Better Schools wants to thank both Johnston Community College and the Johnston County Board of Education staffs for assisting with all the information we have requested. And we have requested a lot of information, and they've gotten it back to us in a very timely manner, and we appreciate that. To have a successful campaign for $61 million for the Board of Education and $15 million for the community college, it takes a tremendous amount of research, planning, and organization. And as the team, the Citizens Committee for Better Schools has worked very well as a team. Maybe it's one of the best teams we put together since my time of serving with the bond referendum committees. So I'm very pleased to be able to say that. I want to thank, as I said, those staff members because they've done a wonderful job. I want to make sure everyone here today knows that any state employees with the school system or with the community college are donating their time to serve on this committee. So they're giving of their talents, times, and resources more so than a lot of people realize. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I will certainly try to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board members, Superintendent? Dr. Smith?
School PTAs are on your speaking list, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am. We actually, earlier on, approximately 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the PTA, PTO, and its school advisory chair people were invited to a meeting that we hosted at Selma Elementary School as an informative session. So, yes, ma'am. And any groups that request us, PTAs, advisory boards, et cetera, we are doing our very best to go directly into those schools and speak wherever they like us, wherever they need us at. At the same time, we're going to be presenting next Thursday night, I believe it's a week from now, at the advisory board dinner. And I've already instructed them how I'd like to have my prime rib fixed that night. So,
Any other questions?
I have a comment to make.
yes, ma'am.
I got it. Oh, got it. I got it. When you first started in your presentation, you mentioned about the fact that there was another bond done earlier before your time.
Yes, ma'am. There were some bonds in the 90s that also
Right.
came about.
I was on the board. I was on the committee for Jim Cosby, who started the bond, along with Kirk Edgerton, and was one more, three of us, William Wellens. We tried to make sure that we had covered our bases by getting the farmer, I was in agricultural extension, and then they had Kirk. So there was three of us that leaded up the bond referendum then. I on it. Good job. I'm glad you're on up. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much, and putting a little humor in your comments. I think y'all must have worked with the CIA back in those early days too, because it took me forever to find out who was on that committee and signed the checking information.
If you had just called me, I would have given it to you.
I will remember that in the future, Ms. Johnson. Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. I would like to say that the bond referendums over the years have been very successful because of Mr. Bullock and his leadership with the Citizens Committee for Better Schools. And I know we got Brandon Evans and Jeff Jennings in the back and many other leaders across the county that are educating the stakeholders in Johnston County, not only to make sure that you turn over the ballot, which is very important, but also to let the county know that the bond referendum is for the entire county and all schools and all feeder patterns. And Mr. Bullock, we appreciate your leadership. I know, you don't get paid to do this. You're doing it for your love of Johnston County schools, and all of you are doing it for your love of Johnston County schools, knowing that it is the economic driver, not only now, but the economic driver for our future leaders that are sitting in here today, which we'll introduce our student leaders here today, so that we can have a better place to live and better leaders to look after us when we're sitting at home and need somebody to look after us. So I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your time away from your family, and all the ones that are leading the Citizens Committee for Better Schools. We greatly appreciate what you're doing across Johnston County. Thank you.
Thank you very much, but it is a team effort from all of us. Thank y'all.
We'll move on to the approval of minutes for our September 11th, 2018 regular session minutes. You've had those minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Todd Sutton.
Second.
Second by Ronald Johnson. Any questions about the minutes? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any discussions and adjustments to the agenda, starting with Mr. Johnson?
No, sir.
Dr. Smith?
None, sir.
Dr. Hall? Vice Chair Johnson? Teresa Grant? Todd Sutton?
No, sir.
Superintendent?
No, sir.
Entertain a motion to approve the current agenda. Motion by Teresa Grant, second by Vice Chair Johnson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Comments from chairman and board members, starting with Todd Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just great to be here today. A lot of things happening in our school system since the last time we met, but I want to commend our staff across the county facilities and everything else due to the hurricane that we experienced after our last board meeting. I think we took great precautions to make sure that all our students and staff and everybody at Johnston County Public Schools was safe. Thank God that it didn't come in as a Category 4 as they once had predicted it. And, it was destruction in the county as well as our eastern neighbors, but it could have been a lot worse. But God had his hand on hedge of protection over us. I've been to a few things this past month, and some of them were just exciting to be a part of, especially our recognizing West Johnston's state championship in gymnastics. They had that a couple of weeks ago at the high school, and a couple of the board members and I were there, so it was great to see that. Today at North Johnston Middle School, just seeing everything that's going on at one of our restart middle schools was awesome, and just hearing what's going on from personalized learning, the relationships that they're building, and I can assure you that I hear it and see it and sleep it and eat it all day, every day, because my wife and daughter are there as well. But, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. This week is Mental Illness Week. And, our school nurses, our guidance counselors, our social workers, all the ones that are in our schools that assist us on a daily basis to work with kids that may have some behavioral issues and not receiving the support at home. It's crucial to our county. It's crucial to the students. It's crucial to the school safety issues that we have going on around the county and the state and the nation, because they can intercept some of these behavioral issues and take care of some of these items before they become major problems in our school system. So I would like to commend each and every one that's in our school system, that school nurses, guidance counselors, social workers, anybody that works with students that assist them on a daily basis to try to help them in emotional capacities. Thank you for what you do. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Ms. Grant?
Glad to be with you this month. Out sick last month, but I appreciate our IT folks, communication folks working with me so that I could call in and join the meeting and not have to be absent from the meeting. Went to McGee's Crossroads Middle School athletic field dedication and ribbon cutting. Nice new athletic field for them, and they were really happy about it. Nice to be there. Left from there and went to the school board, the school bond referendum meeting that Mr. Bullock talked about at Selma Elementary, and had a lot of folks there. Excellent presentation. We just got just a touch of it here today, so if you have the opportunity to hear the whole presentation, they did a really great job. Joined Dr. Smith at Clayton High School for their first Flex Day. That was just a really neat thing to be a part of, and just knowing that with Hurricane Michael coming and Florence here not long ago, that our school system could move towards these Flex Days when we have weather issues going forward. So appreciate them being a pilot school for us to work out all the kinks so that we can all join in. Joined Mr. Sutton and Dr. Smith at the West Johnston High School gymnastics. Those girls with those beautiful state championship rings, Mike, I mean, theirs are about as pretty as yours. So just really neat to see the girls get those rings. And Todd and I did the Railroad Days parade this past weekend and took the grandkids to 5210 Fire Department Community Day. That was a lot of fun. North Johnston Middle School today, just to hear what they're doing. What a great school. 25 clubs, I think they said, and they're starting back the arts. So if you are available December 7th and 8th, they're having their Charlie Brown Christmas play, and look forward to attending one of those nights.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. I was just sitting here thinking how close it is to Christmas, but Vice Chair Johnston.
Yes. I won't have long. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without him, I tell you. I just want to just thank everybody for what they've done, especially the schools that worked hard during the storm and trying to reach people that are very sort of shut in and not able to get a lot of things done. I've been basically in myself, getting a lot of things done that's on my mind. I have an election that's going on, and I've got to do things so that had to be very frank about that. That's where I've been, and I've done the best I can, and will be doing a lot more. I would make a comment about the administrative directory that we have used. I've had to be very friendly and very well taken. It's beautiful. It's so colorful. I just love it to death. So that's really good that you're doing. And other than that, I believe that's all I have. We'll make a comment. I won't.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Butler Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Enjoyed being at North Johnston Middle today. That was a really good visit, and it was a beautiful facility, and really got some good things going on there. I appreciate Landis Bullock and what he's doing with the Citizens Committee to help to pass the bond referendum. There's so many good things that come out of those bond referendums for the children and of Johnston County. It's good to see Jeff and Brandon. Brandon and I were in school together at Clayton High School. I've aged a little more than he has, but now he was a student. I was actually on the faculty and coaching. we were talking before the meeting. Those were just really kind of special days. There was a special kind of bond there at Clayton High School in those days. They were great students, they had a great student body, and the class Brandon was in was really a special kind of group, and good faculty, and just good memories. We've got a lot of those kinds of things that have been going on in Johnston County over the years. We have a tremendous school system, and it didn't just happen. It's the result of people like these two gentlemen and Landis and other people who have worked hard to help fund facilities, and it's been the hard work of good leaders on the county level, our superintendents and their staffs, and administrative staffs of the schools. We just have in this county a great deal to be proud of, and it's just it's an amazing thing just to think back to those days and to where we are now. Tremendous school system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I call the bond team, that is very necessary, and it certainly does help get the message to the citizens of Johnston County. North Johnston Middle School was just exemplary in their hospitality today. They're doing great things with students and with personnel. I also want to thank the emergency personnel who really went beyond the call of duty, not just in our county, but our county went to help other counties. Helping provide shelters within our school district really did help minimize what was a very bad situation. Not minimize it, but make it less devastating than it could have been. I, too, want to thank Clayton Flex Day. The visionary leadership of Mr. Jones and his staff have just made us all very proud. Also want to thank a shout out for the art teachers and the students who had the Frank Creech Gallery showing at Johnston Community College. Our art students are just superb, and they're just incredible in their diversity and in their excellence. Enjoyed lots of football games this month, some nail biters, and some really great celebrations. The cheerleaders, the band, all add to those football games. But the highlight was the the gymnastics state championship. That was West Johnston's crowning halftime. I also want to thank the custodians and maintenance workers. This is, last week was the Maintenance and Custodian Appreciation Week, and especially to our principals. This is Principal Appreciation Month, so a shout out to all of our school leaders, our lead learners, and thank you for all you do for all of our students and the staff who help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start by saying I'm so thankful everyone made it back from Hurricane Florence okay. Johnston County didn't suffer as much damage as many other parts of North Carolina, so our prayers go out to other school systems in the state who have not yet been able to come back to school, and they're unsure of what they're going to do, and we're very fortunate and blessed to be in the position we are here in Johnston County. And I had the opportunity, the highlight of my month was to spend time with the class of 1993, the Smithfield-Selma High School reunion. And, I graduated in 2001, but there's something to be said about being SS Strong. It's not just some cute acronym that we throw on a bracelet. It was great spending time with like-minded people who understand the struggles and challenges that Smithfield and Selma face at this time. Whether you graduated with me in 2001 or with Mr. Wooten in 1930, I don't know what year you graduated, but Mr. Wooten in close. But, it's good to spend time with people who understand, and we're fortunate to have great people working in our school system from that class. Talking with Miss Richardson and Miss Holder, they share a passion that's like no other for helping children in this community, and they're from this community. And talking with them had me ready to turn this nameplate in, put on my uniform, and go back to being Smithfield Middle's SRO. And the more and more I drive by that school, I pass it daily. You just want to go back in time and relive those days where you were in the trenches helping those kids. And unfortunately, you can't go back in time. I teach business classes also. I teach a marketing class and a communications class, and the one thing I tell all my students is time is your most precious commodity. If you don't have time, you have absolutely nothing. It's not money, it's not power, it's simply time. Because when you're out of time, nothing else matters. And I'm sure one day I'll look back and I'll just say, man, I wish I was still on that board. But that day is not the day. I'm still here. And if anyone needs anything since day one, call me and I'll be there. Last thing, I had the opportunity to talk with a friend of mine, Lee Jackson, and he asked me a question, or he made a comment that said, why do you stay so wound up all the time, you know? And, you know, we laughed it off, but, quote, a very intelligent man, Diamond Dallas Page, he said, never underestimate the power you give someone by believing in them and fighting for them. And I, just like everyone in this room, are committed to fighting for students and teachers. Also like to recognize Mr. Jennings, Mr. Evans, Mr. Barber, everyone else. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. I think that comment about fighting for students and teachers, I think that's the entire board why we're here today. And you can tell by the sharing of the board members that we have a board member staff that networks across the county, and we don't just sit at home and twiddle our thumbs. I feel like we got our hands on the pulse and know what's going on in the schools. I married a teacher, so she makes sure that I know what's going on in the schools, the good and the bad. But I'm glad everyone's here today to be able to listen what's going on across the county. I would like to reiterate our lunch meeting with North Johnston Middle School, and Mr. Kenneth Sumler and his staff have got great things going on in that Restart School, and walking the halls and sticking your head in the doors to see students having fun learning is very exciting to me. And they got a lot of good things going on there, as well as every other school across the county. I'd like to close this with any comments from our superintendent, Dr. Renfro.
Just appreciate the support and guidance that our Board of Education, each of our Board of Education members offers on a daily basis. 5,000 employees, over 37,000 students for the first time in school history. It takes us all pulling together to achieve what we do, from the time the first student steps on the bus in the morning until the last student gets home in the evening after band practice or cheerleading or whatever athletics it is. And so we just appreciate each of you in what you do every day and allowing us to serve. Thank you.
Would you like to introduce your two guests here while you got the podium?
I'll be glad to at this time, sir. With us today, our student leaders from South Johnston High School. Glad to have Dr. Pierce, our principal there. But first, Ms. Taylor Rhodes, and second, Ms. Carson Massengill. Ladies, glad to have you both here today with us.
With that being said, we'll move on to advisory board advisory appointments for our schools, starting with Vice Chair Johnson.
With Cooper Academy, we have, it's recommended we have new member appointed for a 3-year term for Elizabeth Yarborough, filling a vacant position, term to end in June 2021. Corinth Holder High Principal Brian Johnson, new member appointed for a 3-year term for Bryant Limber, filling a vacant seat. This term ends in June the 2021. West Clayton Elementary Principal Paige Barnes, reappointment of members Alan Surratt and Jacqueline O'Donovan for 3-year term. Terms end in June 21st. New member appointed for a 3-year term, also for the same school, for Karen Everett, Jane Figueres, and Arlene Wright, filling this vacant seats. Terms to end June 21st. This concludes my.
Ms. Johnson, I appreciate that. If you don't mind, we'll let that serve as your motion for the approval of appointments for advisory appointments, and next on the list is Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Principal Jen Swartz at West Johnston High School is offering a new member appointment for Adrienne Sims, who is taking the vacant seat left by Melissa Jakowski. We do thank her for her service. Shanitra Mangum, principal at Westview Elementary, is asking for Anthony Bird to have a 3-year term for the seat being vacated by Angie Swartzendruber. And Principal Sarah Reynolds at Cleveland Middle School has a 3-year recommendation for Kim Marin to replace departing Barry Lee. New member appointment for Dr. Marilyn Lewis, replacing Jennifer Roberts. And new members for vacant seats. They're expanding their advisory council to vacant positions for Danielle Copper and Yvette Harris. All of these terms to end in 2021, and we do extend our thanks to those who have served our schools on advisory councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We'll let that serve as a second to the motion for approval of the appointments. Teresa Grant.
Cleveland High School Principal Jenna Sauls recommends reappointment of member Doug Sorrell for 3 years, term to end in June 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Wilson Mills Elementary, Ms. Jones has a new member appointment for 3 years for Alicia Hellis and Talitha Hicks. They're filling vacant seats, and the term ends June 2021. Innovation Academy at South Campus, Ms. Johnston. The new member appointments for 3 years of Amanda Whaley, Chris Oliver, Emily Bochard, filling vacant seats for Marcus Burrell, replacing a vacant seat that was held by Claudia Giera. Terms end June 2021. In Princeton Elementary, Ms. Hurst, new member appointment for 3 years for Melissa Johnson, filling a vacant seat, and that term ends June 2021. So we have a first from Vice Chair Johnston, a second from Dr. Smith for the appointments. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd ask that the board approve consent items 6A1A through 6A1J.
Entertain a motion. Motion by Butler Hall, second by Mr. Johnson. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Dr. Coates, come on up.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, Mr. Board Chair, Madam Vice Chair, board members, and Dr. Renfro. Today I have 3 items for you. First on our agenda is Board Exhibit 6B1, Academically Intellectually Gifted Updates. Our current AIG plan cycle runs through from 2016 to 2019. We've revised our submission to align with JOCO 2020. And I just want to run through a few of the practices and changes that we are piloting and some revisions we are considering. You received a draft plan last October. We are currently editing that draft plan. You will receive the total plan for your approval in the spring of 2019. So we want to just call a few things to your attention. First is piloting practices that we are looking at. We are trying to transition formal identification processes to allow for broader screening and more school-based decisions. Currently, you have to be in the 99th percentile on an end-of-grade test, and there's a whole lot more that goes into an identification with that. So we're piloting some practices there. We're also piloting some local professional development with our teaching and learning coaches to work with each school to meet individual student needs there. In addition to that, we are also looking at the standards that we currently use for subject and grade acceleration, and we want to provide more empowerment to the schools to make that a site-based decision based on the needs of each student at the school and the needs of the school and the environment at the school. Also, providing some clarity around our parent and guardian rights with a better timeline if they disagree with the decision or appeal. Are there any specific questions I can answer about that?
Any other questions? No questions.
All right. Thank you. The second item this afternoon is Board Exhibit 6B2, the School Improvement Plan process. The school improvement plans are in draft mode now. They're on the websites for the schools. They will be sent to you electronically tomorrow morning, and would like to give you the rest of the month of October until the board meeting in November for formal approval of those. In addition to the general school improvement plan, any schools that were designated as low performing have to do an additional upload into NC Star, and they're working on that now. And all of that will be ready for you in the November meeting. Okay?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
That will just be a presentation of paperwork. We're not going to actually get presentations from the schools.
No, ma'am. You will get those plans emailed to you tomorrow from Ms. Weckesser and shared with you, and then you will have had that time to ask any questions if you have questions. And if you would get those to me in advance about a particular plan, I'll be sure to have an answer for you for that meeting. Okay? Good. Okay, and the third item today, you have a document in your packet, Board Exhibit 6B3. We shared with you last month that we would present this month a plan for you to support our low-performing schools. So if each of you will pull that out. We have cited in the document our research that we base our improvement plans upon, which is the research of Bob Marzano. And we have created a central support team aligned with critical components that are necessary for school improvement. So if you look at those, you can see that we have a team of people associated with each critical component. And we will utilize those teams to provide support to our schools based on needs at the school, because we know that the needs at each school are different. In addition to that, if you look at the chart on the back of, or on page 2, we have divided our schools into tiers and distinguish different levels of support for those tiers based on, again, the individual needs at that school. These central support teams will provide that support to them through meetings, monthly meetings, working together in teams with administrators, with teaching learning coaches to do some drill down data analysis and help them make their schools better, because, again, there's no one magic answer. If there were, we would have found it and be doing it. Any questions about that? So as you can see on those tiers, there's different levels of support based on the needs there, and within those different levels of support are personalized needs of support.
Dr. Coates?
Yes.
On these tiers and everything, it looks like bi-monthly and monthly meetings at the schools. I know we can't, obviously, EOGs only come out once a year, but in the bi-monthly, it states, review progress and things like that. So will we get any updates as far as the progress, how it seems to be adapting in the schools, and some feedback from that?
Yes, you can. And we will be utilizing data analysis within those schools where they're tracking those same targeted goals and performance, and whatever they determine is needed there, they will track that progress as well. And we can provide updates as often as you would like those. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
That's a record. Thanks,
Thank you, Dr. Coates.
You're welcome.
I would like to say, in between Dr. Coates and Ms. Gill, I was, on my comments, I was focused totally on voting yes twice in the bond referendum, but it's vitally important in the November election to vote for school board members as well. And those represented in this room today is Mr. Jason Barber, Ms. Terry Sessoms, Todd Sutton, Vice Chair Johnston, and Butler Hall. And it's vitally important that you vote on the front side of the ballot as well. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wooten, Vice Chair Ms. Johnson, members of the board, and Mr. Jimmy Lawrence. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I have one item for approval today, and that is a record from me. But look out for next month. We missed our time with hurricane, so
Depends on if you go over to 5 minutes.
I will not. I will not. The first item and only item I have is Board Exhibit 6C1 for the grading policy, Policy 3400. Our standards-based grading has been used in our public schools for several years, and each year a grade has been added so that the students who began with the standards-based reporting model could continue with the model. It's amended to add 5th grade to the policy, and we did an exigent circumstances approval last month, and I'm bringing it to you on behalf of our Policy Review Committee and Academics Innovation Department for formal approval today, so it's recommended for approval.
Policy 3400 grading. This is an action item. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Smith, second by Vice Chair Johnston. Any questions?
I just have a question. I know that some meetings have been held to help educate people on the grading system. I know we had an excellent presentation given to us on the grading system, but still get lots of questions about that.
Right.
What else are we going to do to help communicate this for others?
I'll be more than happy to have Dr. Coates come up and join me because she has some real detailed information to give you about that as well.
When people hear about it and understand it, they seem to be for it. It's just that question of what are you guys doing?
Right, okay. Well, we have, and we will update this continually, but we have evening meetings planned with samples of the report card. We also have updated, there's a link on the website under JOCO 2020. When I say the website, the district website, we're updating that continually as we, evolve and change. We're doing trying to have very clear definitions of what things mean in plain language, not educator speak, so that people understand them. We're also creating videos we hope to post quarterly that are student-based on standards-based grading and teaching and learning and how it has impacted them in the schools. We had some wonderful examples of that when we were out at Academic Innovation. And I wish I had videoed some of that. It would have been perfect for them to explain how hard it was for them at first and it transitioned. But we have a plan of action to do that. And as needs arise, if there's a question about what we think is perfectly clear and someone doesn't think it's clear, we want to edit and fix that. So did that answer that question? And we will publish, when we have those evening meetings, we will publish those. There will be some at each school, and then we'll have some central, but those will be published.
Dr. Coates, on that note about these meetings, and you may be doing this, but is it a way that the schools that you're having these meetings at can send out letters or connect ed or something to
Yes.
okay, because
Everyone should know, because the school should send out the Connect Ed, because each school should be having something. And then in addition to that, we want to have some central things that we announce as well. And we've shared the sample of the report card that's out with the teachers and the staff. It's going to be in color so that it's very clear for people to understand.
Right.
We've shortened it from 8 pages to about 2. As far as the actual report card, there is a 1-page explanation on how to read it, and that's very, very important, because if you see it and don't know how to interpret it, that's not helpful to you.
where's that located again?
That is in, I know it's linked in an agenda from a principals meeting. It's been shared with all the principals. I can get that
Okay,
linked to all
'cause
of you.
I'm sure I'm not the only one. I've gotten a lot of calls and meetings talking about this, and there's still a lot of parents that have kids in 3rd and 4th grade that still don't understand it.
Right. I don't
And-
think parents have seen it yet. I know it's in the hands of
Okay.
the principals in the schools, but I will be glad to get that to you. I'll make a
Okay.
note to do that today.
Because I think communication is 90% of our issues, and delivery is the other 10%.
Yes.
And I think that we still have a lot of parents that are very nervous about this standard-based grading, and it's on the forefront of because they're saying when we leave elementary school, what is going to happen there, and they're just looking down in the future, but also right now it's still a lot of uncertainty in their minds about the standard-based grading.
I understand that, and that's why so much time has been put into that report card to make it very simple and I-can statements based on standards, so that it's so simple that the students, the parents can understand it. So I will be glad to get that to you. Question?
Hey, just a quick thought, thinking out loud. The presentation I saw, is there potential for that to be put on a video and maybe put out for everyone to see, or is it already out there?
That was the presentation in here.
The parachute.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It made it very clear.
We can do
Dr.
that.
Coates and I have discussed one about riding the bicycle, the parachute. I mean, yes, sir. That is one of the projects that we're working on.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
If not, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dolores Gill. Mr. Vetrano.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Lady Vice Chairman, board members, Dr. Renfro. I have 2 items for you today. The first is an action item, Board Exhibit number 6D1. We have discussed Hurricane Florence, and I'm here to discuss it further. I share with you many times that when I come before this group with calendar proposals, I recognize that it's very likely that I come back to you at some point and talk about revising the calendar, which is the case today. As you know, we missed 5 instructional days, several days of school due to Hurricane Florence. It was September 13th, 14th, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. We made the decision, even though the 21st was an early release day on the traditional calendar and several others, we made the decision that we would convert that to a full day. We just felt like parents would expect us, when students were returning to school on Thursday, that they would be there Friday for a full day. And so that was received very well, and we appreciate your support of that. And we will be revising the calendars to reflect that we were in school a full day as opposed to an early release day. In past years, and at that time we also were not aware of a Senate bill that has been passed. In past years, when we have discussed waiving instructional days for students, we've still faced the challenge of how do we handle that for employees, because there are different standards for students, which are our instructional hours met, and our employees, which our 10-month employees, had to follow a 215-day calendar. So even in the past, when we've waived instructional days, we've still faced the challenge of adding work days to the end of the school year, not only to meet the calendar requirements, but to also compensate our employees for working the 215-day calendar. As you may be aware, the new Senate Bill 2 law provides options for school systems under a federal major disaster declaration. One option is to deem as completed any number of instructional days missed up to a total of 20. Thank goodness we did not miss 20 days of school. I know there are some districts that have. This will certainly assist them, but we did miss 5. This bill also addresses employee pay by stating that employees should be compensated in the same manner they would have had they worked on the scheduled instructional days missed. Also, part of this bill, funds have been allocated to compensate school nutrition employees, which has not always been the case. So therefore, waiving instructional days missed, if we proceed with that option, it will allow students, families, and staff to follow the current calendar with no disruption. It will also allow staff to be compensated without adding any work days to the end of the school year. We have put much thought into this as far as what we feel our students would support, our families would support, our employees would support. And it's clear to us that we have this legislative action which gives us this ability to keep the calendar intact for our students and allow our employees to be compensated, which is really beneficial, especially for employees who typically only work when students are in session, such as our bus driver onlys, our school nutrition employees, our hourly teacher assistants. So our recommendation to this board is that we take advantage of Senate Bill 2 law, and we waive those instructional days missed and allow our employees to be compensated as if they had worked on all of those instructional days missed. Also knowing that there are going to be opportunities down the road. There's already discussion, as we know, about another hurricane passing through. We certainly hope that it's quick and it's uneventful, but we do know that as we especially face the winter season, there will be additional opportunities, and we know we will have to make up those days very likely. And so by taking advantage of the legislation, this new Senate bill law, it gives us flexibility moving forward if we're faced with situations where we have to make those days up.
I entertain a motion for Mr. Vetrano's recommendation of keeping the calendar intact.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Todd Sutton, second by Teresa Grant. Any questions?
I have a couple, Mr. Vetrano.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned child nutrition was built into the bill, and then in another statement you said bus drivers. Are bus drivers going to be compensated as well?
Yes, ma'am. All employees.
Okay.
The bill, which is now a law, specifically says all employees. And we even conferred with our board attorney on that to make sure his interpretation was the same as our interpretation. So with your approval, these days will be waived and our employees will be compensated. All employees will be compensated as though they had worked on those instructional days. Now, there are a couple of minor exceptions. For example, we have a handful of employees who were already on approved medical leave. They had not planned on working these days. Even in the absence of a hurricane, they would not have worked on these days. So it's reasonable that they would still submit leave as they had intended to do according to the leave agreement that has been completed and approved for them. But for those who were scheduled to be working and could not, they will be compensated as though they had worked those days. Yes, ma'am.
I had a second question. This semester was already short. Now we're short 5. Been vetted through the principals and the teachers. They can cover the curriculum needed. I know we talk about the essential skills, and this is one of those times when that really seems relevant.
Yes,
But-
ma'am, and we have discussed that. Dr. Renfro, in fact, spoke with all of our principals at the last principal meeting about utilizing all available time for instruction. I think he even commented that there may be a field trip that's planned. Do we really need to take that field trip, or do we need to just pull back and stay at the school? So not only is Dr. Renfro taking steps, but also Dr. Coates and her team as well in ensuring that we maximize all minutes with our students, given the shortened amount of time.
Thank you.
Our high school folks are very strategic in scheduling EOCs. We ask that as many be scheduled in the spring as possible, and Dr. Coates provided me a breakdown earlier this week or last week, one about what is scheduled in the fall and what is scheduled in the spring. And probably about there is much more scheduled in spring than fall, and about half of those that are scheduled in fall were honors classes. So we try to be as strategic about this as possible, knowing that the semesters were not equitable.
Any other questions?
I just had a comment. I just want to thank the General Assembly for doing this and ensuring that our teachers and staff get paid in these situations, because we always struggle with that when we're out and have to worry about them getting paid. So kudos to them.
Yes, ma'am. It's my understanding there was no opposition in the House or the Senate to this bill.
Well, kudos for Mr. Vetrano bringing it up, and kudos for the board hopefully having a unanimous approval. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is an information item, exhibit number 6D2. If you recall, last month I was prepared to share this information item with you, and we tabled it for this month. So I'm glad to be back in front of you to share this information. It's nice to have a group behind me. Please understand, this is not the entire human capital team. Many of them are here. They're working very hard. These individuals are working very hard, but I said if you have an opportunity to stop by so that I can be a cheerleader for you and highlight the hard work that you do each and every day to this board, please stop by. So this is a sampling of the hardworking individuals that we have in the human capital team, and it's my pleasure to work with them each and every day. As I shared with you back in August, the team has been tremendously active this past spring and summer, striving to recruit the most passionate and innovative individuals to work in our school system. There are many things, though, that we do beyond just hiring. In fact, there are so many responsibilities, and these are just some of the major ones that I don't even think we're able to fit all of them on this slide. I see auditing processes that we just kind of squeezed in there. So it is a busy, busy group handling all of these responsibilities. And sometimes when you hear human capital and you mainly think human resources, or maybe you just think payroll and accounts payable, but all of these areas fall under human capital. And I'm sure that we could spend several minutes just talking about each of these bulleted areas. I could probably have individuals from the team to stand up and explain to you and go in depth each of these areas, what we do and how much time is involved. But please know, each of these areas are important to the success of our school system, and it takes talented individuals to make it all happen. Recruiting is not just a human resources responsibility. We ask all of our employees to assist in recruiting. We certainly partner with our principals, and we ask them to travel with us and our assistant principals as we recruit throughout the state and even sometimes out of the state. This is an alphabetized list of the in-state colleges and universities we attended last year. I will share with you that, because sometimes I get this question, our beginning teachers that we hired this year, the highest percentage came from East Carolina. I think that was around 14 or 15%. Then NC State, and then Mount Olive and Campbell were very close. They were also in the top 5 as well. But it's important that we travel to all of these universities, because even if we recruit one teacher from a university, it's worth it to get a quality individual in our school system. These are the out-of-state universities we attended last year. As you can see, we take advantage of visiting places where we can be in an audience of many. So, for example, the last, second to last bullet, Perk, Pennsylvania, we can go to a couple of job fairs there and interact with 22 different universities. So we take advantage of those job fairs where multiple universities are involved. And considering that a little more than 20% of our beginning teachers came from out-of-state universities, it is important that we continue to spend time and our resources recruiting out of state. I'd love to be able to stand before you and say that we have so many graduates in North Carolina that we cannot find spaces for all of them, but unfortunately we do have to go outside of North Carolina. In addition to traveling to the in-state and out-of-state universities, we have participated in a central regional fair. We attended a bilingual job fair last year. We partnered with Facility Services. That's been shared with you previously, a trades fair. We were really excited, had a wonderful turnout for our first year, and looking forward to having that event again. And then some of you were able to make it to our job fair last year. We were really pleased to have 370 participants from 12 different states, and we had a higher participation rate than the previous year. We also value our partnerships with the universities. We partner with 13 institutions of higher education, IHEs. We have 67 student teaching placements that we are aware of for this school year. That is a wonderful opportunity to recruit, and it's a perfect way for principals to interview because you can see the individuals in action. So before they graduate, we like to keep them in our county and do what we can to retain them here. And there are many other opportunities that once we hire teachers, we can help them to identify some of these resources so that they can meet their licensure requirements.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
The Regional Alternative Licensing Center, I understand, is going away. Are we kind of being...
That has been discussed on and off for so many years, Dr. Smith, and it seems like every time that it becomes a possibility that individuals advocate to keep it in place. We certainly partner with the RALC. Teresa McCall is our contact, and she works very closely with us in helping some of our new hires identify which courses they may need to take and also which opportunities they may want to take advantage of. So I hope that they stay in place.
So at this time, it's not in stone. It's just, again, being discussed. Is that right?
I haven't received anything that would indicate that a decision has been made to eliminate the RLC, but I will look back at the team to see if they have heard anything different. But that has been discussed in the past. So as I said, we've been very busy. We remain busy throughout the school year, but certainly during the summer. And on the right side of the slide, you can see a lot of the employment actions over the summer. 898 total employment actions on the certified side. Of those, 313 are new hires, and then 585 are transfers. Now, that 585 may seem surprising, but understand some of those are just internal moves where you may have a science teacher who's interested in teaching math. We still have to go through the process because we want to make sure they're licensed for the position. So it does require time and energy just to process even an internal transfer. The classified numbers, if you were to look at the classified numbers throughout the school year, you would multiply that. But looking at the summer, 376, and of those 149 new hires, 119 transfers, and then 108 additional duties. The additional duties, we have individuals who also serve as tutors, they serve before and after school care, and so we also process all of those recommendations as well. We always like to share with you the different areas as far as our new hires are concerned. And as you can see, we have touched all of these areas, but for the most part, elementary, middle, and then EC seem to be the highest areas of hire for this past summer. We continue to value our partnership with Participate, formerly VIF. We have 55 Participate teachers and residents in our schools, and those are the countries that are represented. So in the absence of this partnership, we would have 55 vacancies out there. So you can see how valuable that partnership is. We also like to take time to share with you where we are in meeting our goals as far as diversifying our workforce. As I've shared with you many years, we're not where we want to be, but we are moving in the right direction. This graph represents just the certified, new hire certified diversity. This graph is the new hire diversity for all of our staff. What I'm excited, though, is when you look at the comparison. This is the certified new hire diversity 2-year comparison. So if you see in red, we hired a higher percentage of African American teachers this year than compared to last year. A higher percentage of Hispanic teachers this year as compared to last year. And then, of course, the other category represents other groups of individuals as well. And then when you also look at all employment, both certified and classified, you see the same trend. Again, a higher number of African American employees we hired this past school year in red compared to the blue, the 17-18 school year, and as well as the Hispanic. So we're very pleased with that. We have been focusing on really diversifying our workplace, our workforce, so that it mirrors our student population. We have committees in place that some of our teams are part of, and Ms. Roberts, and they've really been working to focus on that effort. So I'm really pleased to share this with you. Teacher attrition, we spend one of our times in the next board meeting, we will be, not the very next one, but once the state releases teacher attrition data, I will be reporting that information to you. So you have last year's data up there and the 17-18 data. While we have some preliminary numbers, we're not at liberty to share that publicly until the state board approves that information. But we will be coming back and sharing that information in depth with you.
Define mobility again.
All right, I may have to look back here to Ms. Edmondson because she compiles this data and sends it to DPI for us. But mobility is if they are moving in and out of our within Johnston County public schools and then within North Carolina. So we may have an employee that leaves our school system, but they go to another LEA in North Carolina. So there are different types of mobility that we look at.
Attrition means they resigned, retired, moved away, and mobility means they transferred to some other district or some other school.
Correct. It could be out of state, could be to a charter, it could be to another LEA in the state. And again, we will have that information for you. That is a separate presentation where we just focus on teacher attrition data. So I apologize, that's not really fresh in my mind right now to respond to those questions, but we will certainly go in depth with that when we have all that data received back from North Carolina. And then we're also able to look at our data and compare it to the state. This slide is as it was last month. I did not want to mislead you in any way, so we decided just to keep those numbers as they were last month. When I stood before you last year about this time, I think I said 19 to 20, and that's where we were last month. And in spite of our many efforts and the time, we still face a great challenge, and that is filling all of our vacancies. And the challenge that we have is that we are one of the fastest growing school districts in the state of North Carolina. So while Mr. Johnston is meeting with individuals and talking with them about retirement, we're able to fill some of those ongoing positions, but we're adding positions every single school year to accommodate for this, the massive growth that we've had. And so you're not only filling vacancies to sustain your current workforce, but then you're having to go out and recruit above and beyond to accommodate for the growth. So it's still a challenge for us. I have been hearing from some of our partnering universities that they have been seeing an increase for some of their teacher ed programs, so that's very promising. Every chance I get, I try to encourage high school students to look very carefully at education. It is a very, very rewarding career, and I encourage anyone who has a passion to work with children to look at education as a career. There are certainly other services. Licensure is a huge area of our team. You can look at some of these numbers here. 357 individual licensure meetings held. Those meetings are at least 30 minutes to an hour. Some take longer than that. A lot of time and effort is put into place to get each person hired and to help them in meeting their licensure requirements. Benefits, I talked about Mr. Rick Johnston already. I jokingly tell him not to talk with employees about retirement, but we are here to provide a benefit to our employees, and we certainly want to assist them. But Last year, he assisted 89 employees in retiring and 320 workers' compensation injuries. We want our schools and facilities to be as safe as they can, but when employees are injured, we certainly want to be able to provide them with the services and resources that they need. But 320 times the amount of time that it takes to work with those employees is an enormous amount of time. We talked about in human capital that it's not just human resources, it's also financial services. Look at that last bullet. Processed more than 72,000 paychecks last year. That is huge. We have a phenomenal team in payroll and accounts payable, and sometimes they're not out in the public and people don't know who they are. And I shared with you last month that because of the pending storm, they actually worked late into the evening to make sure that employees received their paychecks before the storm hit. So, great group of individuals. Also, we process substitute teachers and tutors, 10,000 volunteers plus that we monitor. We certainly need wonderful volunteers in our schools. And then 386 leave agreements. And I'm not reading all of this to you, but just to highlight some of the things that this wonderful team does each and every day. Now, we cannot take credit for this closing slide here. We actually stole it from our superintendent. But if you remember at convocation, Dr. Renfro shared with all of our employees that each student counts, every moment matters. And so since human capital, we feel like we are a service to our employees who then provide services to our students. We took this phrase and said each employee counts, every moment matters. So I want to give the credit to Dr. Renfro, though. But we believe in that statement, and again, it's a pleasure for me to work with this group and the additional human capital employees each and every day. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Yes, ma'am.
The 10th, oh, he'll hear me. Leave that alone. How do you monitor approximately 10,000 volunteers?
Monitor meaning how do we process them, or how do we monitor them for background checks? Okay, so we have an online volunteer system. So anyone that has a desire to serve as a volunteer goes onto our website. They follow the steps on the website to apply to be either a level 1 or a level 2. Level 1, the principal can give authority for them to volunteer. Level 2 requires a background check. It's a thorough background check. Once they are an approved level 2 volunteer, then they give consent during that process for the school system to conduct ongoing and random background checks. So all of our volunteers are in a system that compares with the North Carolina State criminal software system. And if there are any charges, anything above a minor traffic offense, we are alerted to that so that we can then research to determine every night. It refreshes every single night. So I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, but.
And we have 42,000 volunteers in our database, but almost 10,000 are the active volunteers.
Correct.
So it's actually how many are active. So that's your job. Well, Tracy does it now. I did it last year. So we do it together.
Right. It's a great question.
So we clicked 211.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry. I do.
Dr. Smith.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
At the ball game Friday night, and several, Ms. Grant and I've discussed this, substitutes really have a hard time sometimes. I'll give you an example. Substitute arrives at the school, goes to the classroom. A student is called, the classroom's outdoors in a cottage. The student is called, and that substitute doesn't know how to get that student to the office. There's not an assistant, doesn't know how to send that child. And at one point, we had talked about the possibility of each school doing a substitute handbook, especially an emergency handbook, and putting it on each school's website, because schools are different. The exits are different. The cottages are different. And I was wondering who here kind of handles that coordination of all the substitute stuff, not their hiring and placement, but looking after what they know about what they need to know.
Right. Well, currently, Ms. Mogi Reddy, who you know, works to process substitutes, and she also will communicate with our substitutes if there are any concerns. We certainly encourage our substitute teachers to communicate with us if they have any concerns whatsoever. And she does receive information from them from time to time and can follow up with the principal. But as far as the concern you have laid out, that is something we've actually addressed. We have spoken with our principals in our K-12 meetings. It's been part of my items to, especially if they are a first or second time or third time to your school, to ensure they know what the emergency plans are for that school, to ensure they have all the resources available, if it's a key fob, to ensure they know what the processes and procedures are at that school. And we do have a handbook for the county for our substitute teachers, but we have encouraged our schools, some of them do, and we have communicated with them to network with each other, to steal from each other and have these handbooks in place. But we will continue that discussion. Also, earlier this year, when they were having a session with all of the head secretaries, bookkeepers, who work very closely with the substitute teachers, I was there. I opened the meeting, and I reiterated at that meeting the importance of communicating with those substitute teachers, because usually the head secretary or bookkeeper is the one who would interact with them when they arrive at the school. So I also reiterated to them the importance of making sure that they know where they're going, they have everything they need, they know who to contact if they have a question. But I certainly understand sometimes it takes a few times to share those things before you see it in full implementation, but we will continue to stress that. So thank you for bringing that.
I have a comment. I would encourage you to keep encouraging them because knowing a couple of substitutes, I know some things are not any different than they were last year. So just keep encouraging.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, if you could encourage teachers to, when they put their request in ASOP for a substitute, if they would say what kind of teacher they are, first grade, second grade, pre-K, whatever it is. Most EC teachers are wonderful about saying it's EC because they know that sometimes someone will get there and find out it's EC and not want to stay.
Sure.
But EC pre-K, that's even a whole different thing. So just encourage them to do that. And, you can spend time going to the classrooms on the school website and find out some of these, but some of them you can't. Some of them just say, looking forward to a great year. So it still doesn't say what grade level you are. So it's just helpful for those substitutes to know, one, what they're walking into, but also, is that really what they want to teach? Like I said, the EC teachers generally do a great job of doing that. So.
Okay. And just in case all of you are not aware, we utilize a software program so that when employees are out who need a sub, they can enter that information in the software system. And it does a lot of work behind the scenes so that we can secure subs for any of those vacancies. And so I think what you're suggesting is if we can add some more details in that system so that when subs are searching through that system, navigating, that they know they have a better understanding of the type of class that they are agreeing to sub in.
Right, because I have heard that someone will get there and then find out it's EC or pre-K and then say, really don't want to do this today. I'm sorry.
Right.
But you can do it because there are teachers who put the information there. So, I mean, it's out by their name. Some of them put it in a note. And then I understand that you can use ASOP as an app, but we don't in our school district use the app. Is that a funding thing?
It may be. There are, just as it is with any software program, you have the basic package, and then you have optional packages that sometimes are more costly. So we will certainly look into that. And if it's
It would make
part,
it
if
very
it's part
easy.
of the current compensation package, then it's certainly something that we would want to take advantage of. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? I was just kidding with you. Mr. Petrano, thanks for the information. We appreciate
Yes, thank you all.
Human Capital and all your employees. Thanks for bringing your department in and letting us see who really does the work in your department. And
That's right. It's not me. It's,
yeah.
it's this great group behind me. They're
But you
wonderful.
support yourself with great people, and you get great things out of it. And it's amazing what your shop does each and every day. It's overwhelming, really, but we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Renfro.
Mr. Chairman, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, so I would ask that we enter into executive session for the purpose of consulting with the board attorney to discuss personnel items in accordance with General Statutes 115C-319, 143.318.11, subsections A1 and A3.
Entertain a motion. Motion by Butler Hall, second by Ronald Johnson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I will call the October the 9th, 2018 board meeting back in order. I entertain a motion to recess closed session and enter back into open session. Motion by Teresa Grant, second by Todd Sutton. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Welcome to your Johnston County Public Schools Board Education meeting. This is the favorite part of our meeting where we have recognition and we can recognize our special gifts of students and employees. And this boardroom is your boardroom, so if you want to take pictures, please feel free to move behind the board so you can get a shot from the front. But you can move all around behind us and enjoy this time as we recognize your students. Welcome to the board meeting.
Thank you, sir. So we are so very excited, as you said, Mr. Wooten, to introduce our students who are being recognized for good character. So I thank you for this time, Mr. Wooten, Lady Vice Chair Johnston, members of the board, and Dr. Renfro. So this month's character trait is perseverance, working hard and not giving up. So we could all use a little bit of that. And so these young people are going to teach us a little bit about that. And we'll go in alphabetical order with our schools and the students representing those schools. And we'll start this afternoon with our student from McGee's Crossroads Elementary School. And if you'll join me at the podium, Miss Cynthia Martinez Balderas. Yes, okay. And you can stand and face. So our young lady could not attend today with us, and so she's being represented very well. And the principal at McGee's Crossroads Elementary School is Stephanie Leonard. Cynthia's parents are Herminio Martinez and Madel Socorro Balderas. Okay. Cynthia Martinez Balderas is a first grader at McGee's Elementary School. McGee's Crossroads Elementary School. We have had the privilege to witness Cynthia exemplify the truest meaning of perseverance, not just this year, but even last year as a kindergarten student. She has experienced and overcome many obstacles in her life, even at such a young age. Although most children experience challenges at some time or another, Cynthia does not give up despite her adversity. Her education has always been of the utmost importance when it could have been very easily taken a back seat. She always keeps a smile on her face, as you see on the picture, no matter what. She comes to school each day with a positive attitude. Cynthia is focused on accomplishing academic and social goals and is self-sufficient in all daily activities. Because of her drive and resilience, Cynthia is and will continue to be an inspiration to the students, teachers, and McGee's Crossroads Elementary family. So we'd like to salute Miss Cynthia Martinez Balderas, and we'll provide you with her certificate and her goodie bag to take back, and please let her know that we are so very proud of her. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Our next student comes to us from McGee's Crossroads Middle School, and if you'll join me at the podium, where the lead learner there is Dorlisa Johnson Coward. Our 8th grade student is Cheryl Bryant. And come on up and take pictures. Just make yourselves at home. Her parent is Walter Bryant. And here's what's been said about Miss Cheryl Bryant. We are proud to present Cheryl Bryant as our student at McGee's Crossroads Middle School, who shows perseverance on a daily basis. Cheryl is an 8th grade student who stood out immediately as a student who is deserving of this recognition. Cheryl Bryant has been an inspiration to us all. Daily, she personifies what it means to be a young lady. In the face of challenges, she has carried herself with pride and dignity. When others might have been crestfallen, Cheryl continues to radiate a confidence that bespeaks of a gentle, consistent strength, a strength that will not only sustain her, but propel her through any obstacles she has to face. Her smile lifts the room and makes all of our days a little brighter. It is a pleasure having Cheryl at McGee's Crossroads Middle School, and we look forward to seeing her continued success this year and for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, Cheryl Bryant. Cheryl, please accept this as a small token of our appreciation, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our next student comes to us from Meadow School, where the lead learner there is Sonia Grice. Our 7th grade student is Alejandro Gomez. Alejandro, if you'll join me at the podium. His parent is Melissa Gomez. And here is what has been said about Alejandro. Alejandro Gomez is Meadow School's character representative for the month of October. The character trait is perseverance, and he is very deserving of this recognition. Alejandro is a very fun-loving, lively student who always tries his best. He has faced many trying situations in his young life and always strives to do his best, no matter what the circumstances. Alejandro has had many trials in his life, both at home and in his academics as well. He is his mom's best helper at home and is a great big brother for his 2 younger brothers, grades 3rd and 1st. Last year, Alejandro was stricken with a very serious infection, which led to his being hospitalized at UNC Children's Hospital in Chapel Hill. He had to undergo emergency surgery to relieve fluid on his spinal column. He had to go through extensive physical therapy, and he learned to walk again. After an extended stay in the hospital, Alejandro came home and was on homebound services for a couple more months. But he continued to work hard because he wanted to come back to school. Through it all, he has persevered and come out all the more stronger for it. He is such a great role model for this character quality for Johnston County Public Schools and Meadow School. Alejandro, we love you, and we are so very proud of you. Please salute Mr. Alejandro Gomez. Alejandro. Our next student comes to us from Micro Elementary School, where our lead learner is TJ Parrish. Our 5th grade student from Micro is Tyler Thompson. Tyler, if you'll join me at the podium. Hi, Tyler. Tyler's parent is Stephanie Thompson, and here is his story. It is with great pride that Micro Elementary School presents Tyler Thompson to the board to be recognized for his outstanding character. He consistently models the character trait of perseverance. Perseverance is among the many character traits that Tyler possesses. He is respectful, inquisitive, dependable, thoughtful, and genuine. He'll be here for the rest of the year, right? Tyler is determined and consistently strives to put forth his very best effort. Tyler never gives up. He does not avoid difficult tasks. No matter what the situation is that he faces, Tyler always has a positive attitude and a smiling face. He may be quiet in nature, but his impact as a leader in the classroom is consistently on display. Tyler is respectful and a friend to all. He has a compassionate and kind heart. He is always willing to do and help and support his classmates. Teachers describe Tyler as an ideal student who has a very bright future. So I introduce to you Mr. Tyler Thompson. Tyler, please accept this as a small token of our appreciation for your hard work.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, our student from Pine Level Elementary School is Mr. Will McClung, who is a 5th grade student. And Mr. McClung, if you'll join me, and the lead learner at Pine Level Elementary School is Mr. Alan Sasser. So let me tell you a little about Will McClung. His parents are Keith and Ann McClung. Will is an outstanding 5th grader. The start of a new school year can be challenging on everyone, but Will has taken on the challenges of 5th grade with a positive attitude. Learning new routines and mastering new skills is all part of a new school year and may seem overwhelming for some students. Will has shown perseverance through all the new challenges and changes that have been thrown at him with a big smile on his face. He tackles new problems during class and finds creative ways to solve the unsolvable problems. Will doesn't stop working just because a topic is difficult. He continues to work until he has found a solution. He is a very bright student with a never give up attitude that will take him far in life. No isn't an answer any of his teachers have heard from him. We all look forward to watching him continue to grow and learn at Pine Level Elementary. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Will McClung. Will, please take this as a small token of our appreciation. We are so proud of you. Have a great year, okay? Best wishes. I'm going to give the podium now to Mr. Brian Vetrano, who will bring you our Employees of the Month, and then I'll be back with the American Heart Association recognitions.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. It's always exciting to stand before you to recognize Employees of the Month. Our classified Employee of the Month is Ms. Betsy Hill. If Ms. Hill would please come forward and join me. Ms. Hill serves as a school nutrition assistant at Princeton Elementary. She was nominated by Jan Bullock, who serves as a teacher at the school. Ms. Bullock shared that Ms. Hill has worked at Princeton Elementary for many years. She's always been a very positive role model for the students in the cafeteria and on her bus route. Betsy arrives to work very early to help get breakfast ready for our students. She has so much passion for what she is doing and makes a difference in children's lives. She makes my job easier by helping with breakfast each morning with a big smile. We laugh about being up so early and being ready for the eager little smiles that will arrive soon. I appreciate her and her desire to make our school great. We join Ms. Bullock in thanking you, Ms. Hill, for what you do each and every day, and we appreciate that passion and that you are impacting our students' lives each and every day. Thank you so much. Congratulations. And you can walk around. Board member.
Last year, when we were visiting Princeton Elementary, Ms. Hill allowed me the opportunity to help with serving lunch one day, and she does a great job. So I know if I ever need a second career when y'all get out, I'm gonna go work. Don't wait around for it.
And Ms. Hill, if you'll circle back around, not quite finished, we have a certificate, a gift card, and a keychain for you. Thank you so much. Congratulations again. Our certified employee of the month is Ms. Kim MacArthur. If Ms. MacArthur will come forward and join me. Ms. MacArthur serves as an EC resource teacher at Glendale Kenley Elementary. She was nominated as Employee of the Month by her assistant principal, Kelly Holland. Ms. Holland shared that although Ms. MacArthur is the one of the most soft-spoken people in our building, her actions shout excellence. Throughout the summer, Ms. MacArthur worked to ensure our schedule met the needs of every EC student in the building. The schedule benefited both her EC team members and regular education teachers due to the fact that schedules were established when teachers walked into the building after summer break. To highlight her willingness to be a team player, Kim has not only worked on her lesson plans and IEP meetings on her caseload, but she has done that for a colleague as well. Since the beginning of school, a colleague has been on medical leave, and Kim took over her responsibilities without hesitation. Although she has multiple responsibilities and duties, Kim has not complained once. Even when administration offered her a substitute so she could catch up on some of the work, she declined, stating that it would not be fair to her colleagues. Kim is the definition of a dedicated employee who exemplifies excellence and a positive attitude. We can't thank you enough for what you do each and every day. Congratulations. Thank you. Ms. MacArthur, we also have a gift certificate, keychain, and a gift card for you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. we're now going to present you with our American Heart Association recognitions. And I'm going to step aside, but I'll give you a little bit of introduction because I think Michelle Gray needs no introduction. She's here with us every year with all of her vigor and enthusiasm about the American Heart Association and its works. But the American Heart Association recognizes schools with outstanding participation in fundraising efforts, and our schools participate very willingly in this program every year. We have a history of participating in this program, and this year Ms. Gray is here to recognize 3 schools that were kind of rose to the top in terms of their recognition or in terms of their participation. I'll just give you those schools and then I'll step aside and let Michelle tell you a bit more. Riverdale Elementary School was the top elementary school fundraiser last year. Four Oaks Middle was the top middle school fundraiser, and the school with the highest participation was Selma Elementary. So I bring you Michelle Gray from the American Heart Association.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I love coming here and celebrating with you all. Lots to celebrate. This year, it is our 40th year anniversary with our program. So I feel like it's going to be a great year. And we've had a long-standing partnership with schools. And I certainly wanted to take this moment to tell you all how much I appreciate the partnership with Johnston County Schools. The total raised from last year is going to excite you once again. Last year, you all raised $190,205. Amazing. Again, it was a total that beat the year before. So in fiscal year 17, the year before, Johnston County Schools raised $178,159. So again, $12,000 more over the past year. It just continues to grow and grow and grow, and for that I can't thank you enough. The top school in the county was Riverdale Elementary, and if I can have Mr. Jewett and Mr. Hopewell come forward, I have a plaque for them. Set these up here so they won't fall. And another thing that I don't think you know is out of all the schools in North Carolina, Riverdale Elementary was the number 8 school in all of North Carolina. So I think that was probably a little bit of a surprise. And they raised over $21,000 this year. So thank you for your support, Mr. Jewett, Mr. Hopewell. You put in so much hard work and hours and coordinate a lot of volunteers, and for that, I'm very, very thankful. Thank you. Oh, one more. The next school that I would love to recognize is, and if I can have Mr. Avery come forward. Four Oaks Middle School was our top middle school. And so we are so thankful for Mr. Jernigan's hard work. Even though he's not here today, I know you'll pass it on that we certainly appreciate all his hard work and coordination over there at Four Oaks Middle. And Four Oaks Middle last year raised just over $3,000. So thank you, Mr. Avery, so much for your support of Hoops for Heart at your school. So with our program, raising money for heart disease and research is definitely important, but it's definitely not the only priority of our programs. And one thing that we're so excited about is getting kids online to take a heart healthy challenge. And when they go online, they can take a heart healthy challenge and take charge of their life, start changing their behaviors, and they can choose to drink more water, 8 glasses of water a day. They can choose to be active 60 minutes a day, or this year we've added a new one, do a good deed or do something positive for somebody else. And so we're so excited to get these kids online. And for that reason, I always like to give the top participation award, because the school that donates the most money may not have the most participation with kids. And so I think it's definitely very important to also recognize schools who get those kids participating in those heart healthy messaging things. And so with that, I would like for Ms. Williams and Ms. Goins to come up, please, on behalf of Selma Elementary. And they received the top participation award, meaning that they have the most students in the county, the highest percentage of students in the county participating in Jump Rope for Heart. Five years in a row. She just reminded me. Yes, awesome job. And I wanted to mention, too, to you all, just to give you an idea, out of around 750 students, that's give or take a few, last year they had 462 participate. So as you can see, over 50%, that's really cool. The national average is right around 30%. So, yeah, thank you. So to all the board members, Dr. Renfro, thank you so much for allowing me to be a partner to your schools. I love it. I have 2 kids in the county, so I love it even more. It's really fun working in this county amongst you all and your students. And just thank you so much to all the award winners and the administration, the PE teachers, everybody here today. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. She brings such enthusiasm to that program, and we appreciate her.
Crystal, if any of our recipients need to leave,
Yes.
Before Dr. Allen comes forward.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're also welcome to, move on with your day. If our honorees. Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much. You're welcome. News coverage. So normally I give up my time for news coverage because you have a list in front of you, but I just wanted to make a few remarks about that report that you receive every month. Just wanted to underscore the fact that news is a utility that we use to empower and inform people. And we take that very seriously, the work that we do to get the information out. And we know that many times the list that you receive is based on the news coverage that we've received, not because it's manna from heaven, but because we tend to work very hard to seek out the stories of the school system and package them and promote them and inform and keep people informed. And we know that journalism is one of the best ways to keep citizens informed, when you take your time to help them make great decisions about their communities, their societies, and their government. But news also is a social gathering space, and we know that from social media. So, again, we don't take it lightly, the work that we do. Our public information unit takes the lead in packaging those stories. And we utilize many different avenues for getting that information out. One is the board meeting and how we live stream the board meeting, because we want our communities to be involved. Those who cannot come during the day, we provide that opportunity for them to just, tune in on the web space. We use seven different outlets for getting the news out, including the superintendent's vlog. And he takes time out of his weekly schedule every week to provide information for the community, for our internal and external stakeholders. And just this past week, thank you, Ms. Caitlin Furr, we were able to join the LinkedIn space. So we now have a LinkedIn presence. So if you'll follow us on LinkedIn as well. So that news coverage summary that you receive, again, it's usually about 100 stories that we work very hard to push out. Of course, there are hard news stories, and we tend to, push information out directly. You receive the connected messaging, but we also tend to package our information sometimes in a humorous way, sometimes in a feature, what we call a magazine format way. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of the work that goes into that. Brian shared how very pleased he is to have a hardworking staff. Public information is very hardworking. Communication and engagement was created on purpose. Student services, information services, public information, we all work together to package and promote, and also to provide a customer service that's second to none. So we appreciate all of your contributions to that and the support that you give us for that. So you have your news coverage there. And you also have a list of your upcoming dates, save the date. Dr. Renfro has already mentioned the Parent Advisory Council meeting coming up, or actually Mr. Bullock mentioned that, the Parent Advisory Council meeting coming up in October. We also have a national, that has passed, National Custodians Day was October the 2nd. This entire month we'll be celebrating our principals. It's National Principals Month. A real-world summit, which is a collaboration between the school system and the Department of Social Services, will occur on October 25th at JCC. That gives our high school students an opportunity to really see what it takes to live in the real world. And I'll never forget my son coming home. We were sitting at dinner. Malachi. No, it was Adam. And he said, Mom, how much are shoes for women? And I said, well, it just depends if you got a coupon or something like that. And he said, okay. And I said, what are you trying to do? And he said, my math teacher has given us a certain amount of money per week or month, and I'm the head of my household, and I have to buy a gift for my, you know this story, Ms. Johnston. I have to buy a gift for my wife, and I don't have much money left. And he said, so how much are Cracker Jacks? How much is a box of Cracker Jacks? Because he couldn't afford shoes. He wanted to buy shoes for his wife. So that real world summit gives our students an opportunity, a taste of what it takes to take what you have from the 1st through the 31st, buy insurance, get to work, buy diapers, whatever you need to do. And so if you want to stop by and see the puzzled look on their faces and see them interact with people who can help them, handle real world situations, that would be a great thing to attend. Our annual Veterans Day event is coming up on November the 12th at 11 a.m. At Triple S. So it will be held on November the 12th. And of course, you have your list of how to stay informed about the Johnston County Public Schools. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our new Director of Social and Emotional Learning, who will bring you an update as to work that's being done based on the mission that has been set before us for addressing our students holistically. We, of course, want our students to be prepared academically and to go out into the world and be very successful. But what we know is that if we don't establish relationships with our students and understand some of the trials and tribulations that they bring to us through those school doors, they will not be as successful as we need for them to be. Because as Mr. Wooten says, when I retire, I would like for our citizenry to be well educated and compassionate. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Amanda Allen, who will bring you a brief overview of the social and emotional learning work in Johnston County Public Schools. Dr. Allen, and welcome.
Welcome, Dr. Allen.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity. So I wanted to come and talk with you today for multiple reasons. First, because this is a brand new position, and second, because not everybody knows what social and emotional learning is. And if we're going to talk about that and having common language, it's really important that we all know what we're discussing here. So when I'm talking about social and emotional learning throughout the district, and this conversation began last year, I was very excited about having that work integrated into the early release days last year as one of the options for our teachers and educators. We're discussing these 5 components: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. These are 5 components that have been established by CASEL, which is the Collaborative of Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, and they are the leaders in research for social and emotional learning, which is why they're the go-to for all the districts that have social and emotional learning integration. And when you think about these 5 components, this is what helps us to be productive individuals every single day. Being self-aware, being very knowledgeable about how you're feeling in any certain moment, any biases that you might have and need to correct for yourself. Well, the correction piece goes into self-management, being able to set goals, getting yourself up on time in the morning, getting to where you need to be. Social awareness, being aware of conversations that are happening around you, not going and talking about Star Wars when the conversation is about politics. You know, just these little things. Relationship skills, making sure that we can build those relationship skills with one another and make those personal connections, and responsible decision making. Can you imagine if we were all taught specifically how to make responsible decisions when we were younger? I mean, it would be amazing. I didn't have a lesson on that until I was in a PhD program, which is a little bit insane to think about. And that was ethical decision making. But anyways, one of the reasons, a few reasons that we need social and emotional learning to be an emphasis in our district are because our students must first be safe in order to learn. And when we're fostering the social and emotional needs of our students, we're able to address that and ensure that they're safe within our buildings. And behavior and our response to behavior has a direct impact on learning. So if we're not teaching students how to be self-aware of when they're starting to escalate, when they're getting highly anxious, when they're about to run underneath a desk or hit their neighbor because they're frustrated and their neighbor doesn't realize it, then it's really impeding on the academic learning that can take place in the classroom. And it takes the teacher time to respond to that, then it takes your administrators time to respond. And as we know from research, exclusionary practices aren't productive for the learning community or the individual that's being excluded. And we as people must be taught to behave socially and academically. It's not just something that we innately gain. And personal experiences cannot be taught separate from the academic learning because memories are attached to emotions. And if our students don't feel safe in the classroom, they're not attaching to anything productive during that time. So really helping them to learn about themselves, how to regulate themselves, about how to recognize cues in others and build those relationships, those are foundational components to any good education. my vision, and well, it's just me right now. So the vision from the Social and Emotional Learning Department as of yet is competent and confident educators working together to create safe learning environments in which they strive to better understand each student as an individual in order to build strong relationships and positive classroom cultures to support every student's social, emotional, and academic development. And in integrating this vision into our district, I always like to be reminded that in an airplane, we have to put our oxygen mask on first before we can assist those of others. The same is absolutely true for social and emotional learning, which essentially, I don't have you up there specifically, but really it would start with all of you to make sure that you're well taken care of and you know how to take care of yourselves. I'm not questioning that. That's just where it would begin. And then making sure that we take, I mean, we can talk about self-care. That's very important. But making sure that our leaders and our educators know first how to take care of themselves, because if they're not taking care of themselves, then we can't care for them either. And then making sure that they know those structures so that they can then model them for our students, because so much more is taught through modeling than just instructing directly. And then those effects will trickle down to students, and then that's our general population, all students. We would then have more intensive students who need support, like our 20% of the population that needs just a little bit more instruction on how to be self-regulated. And finally, we would reach our most intensive needs with very specialized instruction and individual support. And in my mind, I'm seeing those being more individual sessions with professionals who are trained, such as counselors or people who have been given specific training on such work. I wanted to also update you very quickly on the projects that we've got going right now. This first year is going to be a growing year with our social and emotional learning standards. Right now, we have tentatively adopted standards that came out. They're I CAN statements, and you can click on that link if you would like. They are from a school district in Metro Nashville Public Schools, so that school district. They have a strong social and emotional learning integration, and they also freely share what they're doing. So for this year, we're starting out with those, and I'll be getting feedback from any educators who choose to adopt those, any counselors who choose to adopt them in their practices, so that we can modify these to see how they need to fit the Johnston County population. At the end of this year, we hope to retweak those however we need to and propose those going forward for our district as foundational components for helping teachers in the ways they're helping students learn how to regulate themselves and their awareness. We're also working on linking social and emotional learning standards to the Portrait of the Graduate, because it all fits. All of those components around the Portrait of the Graduate, those are non-academic content areas, and they fit beautifully. We have the Resiliency Project through the Public School Forum of North Carolina that's being conducted at West Smithfield Elementary School and Cooper Academy. I'm in attendance of those sessions so that I can help to duplicate what's being done in those schools after that project has been completed. Similar things will occur with RTI International. We've gotten a partnership grant with them, and they'll be working with 2 schools very closely. Their project sounds very similar in nature to public school forums. And then we are creating the MTSS, multi-tiered system of support strand for social and emotional learning. So we're not focusing on behavior, we're focusing on social and emotional learning so we could be more proactive in our approach and how we're meeting student needs. And finally, just increasing our education. And we have 6 schools, I'm excited about that, whose wildly important goals actually include social and emotional learning related components. And I'm supporting those schools in every capacity that I can. And first is those who tell me about theirs. I'm working with them very, very closely. So I've got lots of exciting work going on. Does anybody have any questions?
No question, but I just want to say we are just so privileged to have you on board and doing this. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Just a comment, a lot of times people don't get past the first couple of sentences. They might not even get past the title, social and emotional learning. And, people are quick to label things or categorize or put their spin on it. But a lot of the basis for what you're doing is mirrored in programs being taught at a graduate level. For example, you may think it's a touchy-feely, and I know there's probably 2 people watching and more people in the crowd, but you may label it as a touchy-feely, you know, we're deviating from the old school curriculum, but if you look at the concepts being covered here, they're being taught in MBA programs all over the world. They're just rebranded. When you look at the terms self-awareness, self-management, you know, those terms are all wrapped up into self-concept, taught at Duke Business School, I mean, all over the country. And you look at students must feel safe to learn. Well, that fits right into Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and if you don't get it at the bottom, it won't build to the top of self-actualization. And now, last thing I'll just point out is, you know, your personal experiences impact your learning. Corporations pay millions of dollars to learn about the total person in regards to employability and consumer relations. So what you're doing is not just some touchy-feely, you know, are you okay? I'm okay. This is some real-world business applications, and I certainly appreciate what you're doing, and I hope we take it to that level, and thank you.
I just got one comment too. You know, Mr. Johnston hit on a lot of points, and being in the corporate world, we utilize some of these areas in the pharmaceuticals and reach out for culture indexes and a lot of different things to see what makes that person tick and why and how we can adapt to their, you know, being as well if they come into our organization. But, you know, on the surface, just like Mr. Johnston said, it was people think it could be, are you okay? Mm-hmm. But when we dig into the weeds of this, it's much more than that, because safety is the number one thing for a kid to learn. And, you know, our school system has provided some updated safety items to make sure that they feel that when they come through the door. However, you're taking it to another level. Oh, yeah. And we can't thank you enough, because if we, you know, our motto is we need every student counts. But we got to start with the first one. And if we get the first one to feel like they're safe and understanding and moving to the self-awareness and everything else, what else can we do? Where can they take it? So thank you.
Well, thank you for the validation in the work that I'm doing. I really appreciate that.
Any more questions? Thank you, Dr. Allen.
I just want to add that Dr. Allen does walk the talk. She reminds me about self-care all the time.
We have
and
to.
So she is a fantastic addition to communication and engagement. And we just want to say thank you to our visionary superintendent, who has established this as a priority, as a non-negotiable for Johnston County Public Schools, as well as the board, for approving this move, because it will set our district, it sets our district on a truly high trajectory. So thank you very much.
I would think we as a board have a lot to learn from Dr. Allen as well. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as the Johnston County Planning Board documents, I just recently looked at the Planning Board documents, and there's a couple more subdivisions on the docket for approval. So I know we talk about voting yes on the bond referendum, and that's the reason why, because the county continues to grow, and we need to continue to build schools. So another reason to go out and vote in November, to make sure that we continue to grow schools to handle our student count. So with that being said, Dr. Renfro.
November board meeting, Tuesday, November 13th. 2 o'clock. Everyone's invited. If you can't be here, please join us through live stream. And Mr. Chairman, this time I would ask that we return to closed session and terminate our recess.
Entertain a motion. Motion by Teresa Grant, second by Mr. Johnston. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 5-minute break.